Hey everybody, this is Dark Side Elite here. Today is Wednesday, and I am doing this spoiler review of It Chapter 2. And there are a lot of things I found out. Right now, there are no post-credit scenes from the movie. A lot of people are complaining about that. Um, I will get to it right here and now. I don't. I think that they should have done a post-credit scene, and I think that they should have shown the turtle. I think that Stan's letter should have literally shown. Sorry, I think that the letter that he gives to the rest of the losers, while he explains why he did what he did, he should have explained a little bit more, or Beverly should have explained what the heck did they really see when they saw into the deadlights. Now, now in the movie it explains what the heck the deadlights is. That's his true form. That is the creature's true form. He has three lights that actually supposed to permeate fear and create insanity into the more stout mind. And I kind of wish they explained just a little bit more into the legend of what the heck he is. And because they introduced the Native American into it, I think that should have been our introduction to the grandeur scope of the universe. That in Stephen King's book, he says that the creature of the deadlights, his mortal enemy is the turtle. He's the world turtle. I call it the world turtle. That is the turtle of reality, and that the turtle, in the book, is his mortal enemy, and the turtle of creation is the one that created our universe when he was floating around and he basically belched our reality into existence. Now, I wish they kind of explained that a little bit, but in a much more what I'm gonna say, a bigger story. And hold on one second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so um, let's get into the movie. Basically, we get into there's these kids. There's this gentleman who's he's playing a basically a game at the carnival, and he beats these other kids and wins a prize. Well, the little girl, and she goes a little more prominent later in the stories. She's feeling upset and everything, and the guy talks to his friend who thinks it's a friend, and he pretty much whispers to her, say, "Hey, did you want this?" And he says, "Well, thank you for letting me win." And he gives the little doll to her, and she runs off and says, "Oh, thank you," and she runs off. So a very kind gesture. Now we come to find out that the gentleman who did this, he's actually a homosexual. I had no problem with it. Whatever. Okay. I know some people are probably going to have a problem with it. It felt like they're kind of forcing something. Who the heck cares? It's fine. They're not really doing anything out of the ordinary. That I mean, there's two gentlemen. They embrace. They move on. Okay. So they move past these other punks, and these punks start calling them out. And well, the one that's a little bit more vocal voices his concerns to them and pretty much tells them to go f themselves. So later, while they're talking, the other gentleman that didn't make the rude comments, he's actually from Derry. He grew up in Derry. And he's sitting there talking about that we need to get out of here. This place is not. It doesn't take kindly to people like us. He says, "Well, it doesn't matter. Whenever you're ready, I'm ready to go with you. Whatever more of the couples talks." So these punks show up and start beating the crap out of them, and well, the one that made the rude gestures, he gets his face beaten in, kicked in, and he gets thrown over the bridge. While the other gentleman watches, and they basically run off. Now, the other gentleman, he runs down to see if he could try to help his partner, and his partner is gasping for air, and he's trying to get himself over to land, as much as over to the shore as much as possible. And that's when he meets up with Pennywise. And out of nowhere, while he looks, he sees Pennywise pick up his friend and he rips out his heart. He basically bites his heart out and killing him instantly. And his friend and his partner is sitting there screaming and getting frantic. And that's when all the balloons show up. And that's when we get the call. And Mike Hanlon shows up at the scene, and he sees a piece of the balloon, and it says "I love Derry." Now that's his calling card of knowing Pennywise is back. And then he looks over to the side of a pillar where the bridge is, and he notices that it says "Come home" 3 times. That's how he knows. He says it 3 times because he's trying to tell Mike Hanlon, call your friends, it's time for them to come home. And that's when Mike starts making the phone calls. So we get picked up with Bill, who's actually a pretty prominent writer who's wrote books, and now he's writing the screenplay and the script for a movie of one of his books, and it's not working well. And we meet his wife, and her and the director are trying to tell him that no one likes your endings because he doesn't end it on a good note. He ends it on a very terrible note, and it really makes the book seem like, what the heck? It's like, I mean, people like, good endings, and Bill is trying to tell him, like, everybody likes good endings, but sometimes that doesn't happen in the real world. And she goes, well, you got to do it for a movie because a movie has to have a conclusion. So basically, it's kind of like in a way, it's trying to say the same thing happening in this movie. Like, you can't end a movie, you can't end anything on a bad note if that's going to be the end of your movie. You can't do that. That's just not how it's done. But in retrospect, we can actually have seen that happen many, many times in a lot of movies, especially one-off movies. Now, out of nowhere, Bill gets a phone call from Mike from Derry. He picks it up, and that's when Mike introduces himself and says, "Hey, my name is Mike. It's me, Mike Hanlon. You remember?" He goes, "What do you mean?" And that's when he says, "Listen, it's back." And then that's when he starts getting and that's when he starts to stutter. And everybody knows that whenever Bill gets frantic or he starts to lose control, he starts to stutter. And that's when it starts happening because the memory starts slowly coming back, and he starts to realize, like, holy crap, what are you sure? Is everything? He goes, yes, it's back. Are you going to come? He says, okay, I will. Now we get Richie Tozier, who's basically jumps off of a who basically comes out of the door, and he's vomiting over a banister because he got the same phone call. His PR agent is telling him, "Are you okay? What's going on?" He goes, "It was a bad phone call." So they talk shop, and he goes back out onto his stand-up, and because of you hear a voiceover when he starts trying to tell a joke. You hear one of the phrases they always try to tell Richie to say, basically for him to shut up, means beat Richie, and that's when he kind of loses focus on telling the jokes, and people say, "Hey, you suck," and then you get a good chunk of laughter. Now we pick up also with Eddie, who basically is talking to his wife, who it's actually funny, and it's actually ridiculously funny. I kind of wish they expand on this a little bit more. But the woman that he marries is basically the actress that plays his mother in the first movie. So he basically married a woman just like his mom, and it's very telling. So it seems like a lot of them are still kids, but they're doing grown-up things, but they still act just like kids. And a lot of things change, but some things never have always stayed the same. If you really want if you think about it like that. Now we catch up with Eddie, and he's talking to his wife, and he says, "I know what I'm doing. Everything is fine." And as he's driving, he gets a phone call, and it says Derry, and he literally completely goes silent. Now, if we know the Eddie Casper character from the first movie, he never shuts up. He basically throws out joke after joke after joke, talking about this and this and this and this, medical procedures, this and this and this. So the moment it showed on his car that he's getting a phone call from Derry, he instantly just shuts up. And he hangs up on his wife, picks up the phone and says, "Yeah, hi, Eddie Casper here." And Eddie, it's Mike Hanlon. Yeah. And he goes, I'm sorry for giving you this phone call, but I need you to let you know that it's back. Are you sure? Yeah, it was funny. He's like, are you sure about that? And that's when basically, right when it shows that he runs a red light and a car sideswipes him, and he goes, Mike, or he goes, Eddie, are you okay? He goes, yeah, I'm fine. And then you're like, wow. So his whole life just pretty much flashed before his eyes. So then we get a phone call from him um, to Beverly. Beverly was one of the last ones, so I'm gonna try to do the ones as much as I can remember. Okay, and he he um he calls up Beverly and tells Beverly that it's back, and she's sitting in the corner, pretty much balled up, and she's listening to all this, and that's when she makes her decision to want to go, and she says she has to go. Now her husband, he's pretty much telling her, okay, that's perfectly fine. Like, is everything gonna go okay? She says, yeah, everything's perfectly fine, but I gotta go. An old friend called me, and I gotta go. And that's when he pretty much starts beating her face in, and she says that I haven't cheated on you. He goes, no, that it's not about the cheating, it's the fact that you're lying to me. And he goes, who the heck is Mike and everything else? So, he's pretty much being that type of husband. And that's when they fight. She smashes him with I believe, a clock, and drops him to the ground, and she runs out, leaving her ring on one of the pillars. And she starts walking in the rain, and then you see her just walking off. So her recollection starting to come back. Then we pick up with Ben. They're talking to Ben, and he's talking shop with his I forgot what he does. An architect firm. He has an architect firm. And with that architect firm, they're trying to tell him, like, hey, no, we build walls here. And he goes, what are you talking about? He says, he's basically telling them that we're not going to build walls there, because we're not building doors there, because it's making people feel like they're in a prison, and when people feel like in prison, they want to escape. We want our buildings to look open, and everybody is more inviting to want to come in. But he's doing this all over voice call, and he's at his home. So it seems like he's very isolating himself away from everybody else. And that tells a little bit, because if you look back in the first movie, he was there for the rest of the group, but he wasn't really there. And I think that was one of the big points that they were doing for the movie. And excuse me. So I think that by him doing that they are trying to establish that Ben is actually he's trying to legitimately keep himself away from the rest of his with the rest of his crew. So that shows a little bit more towards his character than anything else. Now, he gets the phone call, but we don't know what the phone call details, because they never talked about it. I kind of wish that they explained a little bit more, and how Ben really reacted. Then we catch up with Stanley. So Stanley is building a puzzle of birds, and he gets the phone call, and that's when he starts to go, oh, okay. And he's walking around, he's pacing. You can see that he's frantic. He's not really feeling this. And because of it, he basically, you hear a lot of the overlays of the other kids and all the good times he ever had, and the promise he made, and it shows him getting the scar, and it shows Bill look at him and says, do you promise? And he nods, and it shows him get the scar, and then it shows him he slit his own wrists. Now it doesn't show, because it said in the book he actually wrote it on the wall in his own blood, and he died. Now I don't know why they didn't show that. I think that was very prevalent, and it actually makes it show that he was genuinely afraid. He was mortified of wanting to come back home. So I wish that they kind of did that, and but that's fine the way it is. So we catch up with the rest of the losers that show up at the Chinese restaurant, and they try to all reconnect and be astounded by how they look. And Richie made a few jokes, And then over time with Mike, he explains that it has come back, and what do they remember, and they start talking about a lot of stuff they remember, but it's in bits and pieces. So Mike starts telling them that there's a lot that's going on here, and there's a lot that you guys don't know, and there's a lot that basically you guys need to remember. But they're wondering, like, why the heck didn't Mike tell them about what the heck? Like, they got mad, like, okay, we're coming together, then what, what's the problem, what's going on here? But Mike never explained to him that it's back. He never truly explained that it has returned. He just basically gave them over the phone that it's, are you gonna come? There's a situation. Are you gonna show up? So they're thinking like, oh, it's just a little reunion, but it's not. It's the fact that Pennywise is back, and their fear starts completely overtaking them, and they start to flip out. Then they talk about Stanley, and that's when they get their first taste of Pennywise and the fortune cookie scene. And the fortune cookie scene shows that the fortune cookies all start morphing into weird things, like an eyeball and a chick. And then one turns itself into kind of like into a human face with a spider body. And then another one is a wing that kind of flaps out of one of it and just flips everyone out. And then you see the black tar coming over the table. And Mike knows what the heck this means. It means that it's trying to get to them, and he's trying to tell them, like, no, it's not real. It's not real. He starts smashing his chair over the table, and it was basically an illusion. So one of the people comes in, and they're sitting there saying, check, please. So we get a really great funny scene. As they get out, they talk about Stanley, like, hey, where's Stanley at? And that's when Beverly gives the phone call, and Stanley's wife tells them that he slit his wrist and he's dead. And that's what pretty much sets them all off, that what the heck are you talking about? And then why do you tell us that Pennywise was back? Why did you do all this? Why did you make a phone call if you knew that Pennywise was going to come back? Why didn't you just tell us over the phone? He says that he didn't want them to be frightened to the point where they're not going to show up. He wants them to show up because they made a promise. And that was the whole first part of the movie was about the promise. And I think that Andy did a really great job with this. It kind of showed that no matter how old they were, they still had that genuine fear about Pennywise, and it never truly left them, only left them because of their memories. Now, then we get further into the movie, and we meet up that Henry Bowers actually survived his confrontation with the losers, and that Pennywise has been basically, he gets arrested for the murder for the murder of his father, and they throw him into a mental institution. And Pennywise sets him up to the point where he tells him, here's your knife, go find the losers and kill them. You live up to your word. So he pretty much says, okay. And he goes off, and he gets out of the mental institution with the help of his dead friend that he used. Not Belch or anybody else, but more as Hostetter. And then we move a little bit forward, and you come to find out that Mike explains to Bill, because Richie, Eddie, Beverly, and Ben are like, nope, we're done, we're leaving. So Ben is trying to say, no, why are we, don't leave. We made a promise. We got to live up to those promises. Richie's like, nope, I'm good with this. I'm not dying. Screw that. So they're pretty much trying to leave, and Ben is trying to keep everything together. He's trying to generally keep everybody together. And Beverly is really, she's really devoid of emotion about things. Like, she's detached from the rest of them. And I think that the way they did it was, she doesn't truly know if she really wants to leave or if she wants to stay and help, but she doesn't know if she wants to stay and help with Bill. She's still kind of confused about the whole situation. Then we get Eddie. No, I'm sorry. Then we get Bill with Mike at Mike's place, and Mike explains to him that what Pennywise really is, what he really is. And he gives him a concoction that he got from an Indian tribe that's outside of Derry, and he reveals that this Indian tribe, long ago, they were the ones that completed a ritual that actually defeated, that he said defeated Pennywise, but he got freed from his confines and started his 27-year hibernation. And so he shows to Bill what it is, and he reveals it to be the ritual of Chud. Now he calls it the Battle of Wills. Now I'm gonna slowly explain this. In the first movie, they did do the Battle of Wills down in the sewers against Pennywise the first time. That's the reason why they were able to hurt it and almost kill it. If they went further down into the hole and went after him, they would have easily have killed Pennywise 27 years ago, and none of this would have really have had no problem, because he was so weakened. He was so weakened because of the Battle of Wills that he said, nope, I gotta get out of here. I gotta retreat. Just forget about it. I'll sleep in hibernation, and when 27 years down the road, I'll kill you guys when you're older, because you'll be so petrified with fear, you won't be able to stop me, or you're gonna leave and not come back. So either way, whatever. So it was a win-win in Pennywise's decision. However, and I'd rather for you to watch the first movie. Now in this one, he explains what the Battle of Wills really is. It's they basically have to battle the will of their genuine will against Pennywise. And he explained to them that he explained to Bill that Pennywise came down millions of years ago on a comet, and that smashed into the earth and ended up down in Derry, where Derry was created. And when it came out, it started to strike against people and morphed into all these different things and started to attacking the indigenous people of the area. So they created a ritual that actually had them pit their wills against his, so they could be able to seal him away and they could be able to stop him. Now he didn't explain the whole thing fully, but he showed to Bill through almost like a hypnosis of how they did it. Now that got Bill going, okay, well, this is gonna work. So he's like, yep, it's gonna work. So basically, Bill and Mike create the plan, and they go and try to talk to the rest of them, which gets Richie going, nope, I'm not nothing to do with this. He bounces. And they meet up again, and that's when Mike explains to them that they have to find their artifacts, find something of their past that they have to let go, so they could be able to use that will to strike against Pennywise. So they have to split up. So Beverly goes back to her home to get something from there. Richie goes to the arcade where he spent almost his whole summer at. They go down to the clubhouse where Ben created, and they get something that Stan used that helped them to protect them against like the spiders and all that other stuff down there, and they got themselves some like a head protector. It's something that a lot of people use to put on their heads when they're taking a shower. So he gets that. Bill finds Silver, his old bike, and that's when he gets his bike, and that's when he runs to the sewer, and Pennywise uses his manifestations to actually get Bill to almost get himself killed, but he actually gets the boat. I'm sorry. He gets Georgie's boat, and that's when we meet another little boy, and that's another pretty important little kid. And the little girl that you meet in the first movie, she gets attacked by Pennywise because he uses the fact that he has a very not a very good looking face, and she's like, well, I have this little wound, and everyone makes fun of me. He's like, oh, well, I can make that go away. She's like, really? So she kind of reaches over and he says, I'll count to 3 and I'll make that thing go poof off your face. So he's like, okay. So she puts her cheek out. He goes, 1, 2, and he stops. And then she's like, aren't you gonna say? And that's when he bites her face off. You're like, wow. He bites her face off. He kills the little girl. It's really messed up. That little girl did not deserve it. I was like, wow. So he kills the little girl. The little boy, he basically, when Bill goes back and tells him that he's ready for everything and what's going on with everybody, we get a situation between Bill and Beverly, and they embrace, they kiss, but then out of nowhere they look at each other like they don't feel nothing like that. What the heck, you know? And then that's when she realizes he's not the person. He's not the person. That Bill is not that person. Bill cares for Beverly, but it's not the love that she thought. So there's a lot. So she gets a little bit more confused, and the audience is going, well, of course it's going to be Ben, but Ben is playing. He's being the good white knight. He's saying, if she doesn't know, there's no reason for me to tell her, and just let it go. And he's being the good guy. So if Bill has her, then that's the thing. But they don't know that Bill's married. They don't know Bill is married. Bill never said anything about getting married. Now, I also heard in the book that Beverly and Bill did have sex. They actually had sex. And even though they're both married. And I believe that was the reasoning why they both knew that, okay, that felt weird. Like, that felt really, really weird. There's no passion behind that. So we get more of just they embrace and kiss, and then that's when a skateboard falls down, and it says you won't be there for him too. You won't be there for him too. And Bill realizes that he's talking about that little boy that he met. So he chases him down at the fair, and he goes through the Hall of Mirrors, and Pennywise shows up and basically breaks the mirror one final time as Bill is sitting there telling him, please just take me, don't hurt that little boy. Pennywise doesn't care and bites the kid. Literally just completely rips this kid completely open by biting down on him, and blood starts getting all over the mirror. And then the lights go out and the lights come back on, and Bill is by himself. So Mike is talking to all the rest of them and saying, hey, where's Bill? We got everything. Where's Bill? And they call up Bill, and Bill says, nope, I don't care. I'm going to go kill him. I'm done with this. So they're like, no, we got to do the ritual first. He goes, no, I don't care. I'm going after him. So they believe that the only place that he knows where to go is going to be that house that they all went to as little kids. So they arrive there, and now Richie, let's go back a little bit. Richie, he gets attacked at the center of the park. Now it's being construed, and it's being slightly told that Richie is gay, but he held it back for so long that a lot of people that he's not saying anything. So the big thing that that everyone is that he's talking about is that that he's a closet gay. So he that's when Pennywise reveals that I know your secret. It's something that you don't want anybody to know, and it's basically it's causing him to have his own self anxiety, his own self doubts, and everything else. That's the whole thing with Richie Tozer. And that the one thing about Eddie is that he won't get rid of his hypochondriac and his own self-worth. Bill has his issues. Beverly has her issues with her father and the beatings. Ben feels isolated. Mike feels like he can never move on. He feels stuck. Stanley is petrified, afraid of everything. And that's it. Yeah, that's it. The 7 losers. So a lot of them have their own personal little demons that they're dealing with, and it just makes it very, very. it makes it very interesting. Now, now we get to the towards the big climax of the movie. Now they get into the house and they go through a little situation, and they battle against. They find out that that Pennywise is using Stan's younger body, and it turns itself into a little spider, and it basically goes after them. Mike basically and then Ben feels somebody cutting into his skin, and they look into a mirror and they see it's Pennywise, and he's about to start to cut Ben's throat until Beverly breaks the mirror, which breaks the spell. Now, there is one part of the movie I want to go over. It's with Henry Bowers. Henry Bowers gets killed in this movie, and they did it very, very well. He went after Eddie and basically put a knife right into his cheek. And then Eddie, he slinks back into the tub, which we're like, oh dude, he's gonna die in the tub. Oh come on, that's not cool. He pulls over the shower curtain, and as Henry Bowers is like, you idiot, and then that's when you hear a thunk right into his chest. Eddie pulls the knife out of his cheek and plunged it right into Henry Bowers' chest. Henry Bowers is like, what the hell? And you see Eddie just looking at him as he's pulling down the curtain, and you see Eddie just looking at it like, and you see him just kind of slink to the side and get out the door. It was actually one of the funniest scenes in the movie. It was so funny because he's just like, you die right over there. I'm gonna slink over here, and I'm getting the heck out of here. So I like how they did that. And then they try to patch him up, and Henry gets out, and he runs off. He attacks Mike, and basically he attacks Mike to try to kill him, and that's when there's a hatchet in the back of his head done by Richie Tozier, and Richie Tozier vomits. So that's when we catch up to what them going after. So basically Henry Bowers is dead, and now they can catch up to Bill. Now they catch up to him down. They catch up to him at the house. They go through the situation at the house. Now they get down to the side of to where they originally fought Pennywise, and they see the broken down little carnival wagon, and they see it kind of it's broken down, and the frame is almost nearly is very, very well destroyed. But they see in the center, it's the same type of symbol that you see on Mike's paperwork that he saw. So that must be the hole where Pennywise goes through. And they go down that hole, and that's when they go down the hole, and they go down to the area where where the meteor smashed. And that's when they start doing their the ritual of Chud, the Battle of Wills, and they almost beat it until Pennywise reveals the biggest reveal of the whole movie, and the reason why the original Native Americans who trapped him, who didn't originally trap him, why they failed, and they failed because he killed all of them before they were able to seal him away. That's the reason why it didn't work. And he never told them that it didn't work the first time. He just told them that he has a plan, and this will work. And the reason why Mike did it is because he flat out told them that he did it because he didn't want to give them no hope. He wanted to give them more hope that there is a way to defeat you, but he didn't want to tell them the full truth because it would only break their hearts. He didn't want to do that. He didn't want to give them no negative information. He wanted to give them all like, it's going to work. This is what we're going to do. And I understood it, but I felt that he should have told them. And they all got livid at him for it. Like, why did you not tell us, and this and that? And that's when Mike says that he's sorry. And right when Pennywise was about to kill him, Bill got in the way and saved his life. They run around, and that's when Pennywise starts using his manifestations to stop him. Now, remember, this is a battle of wills. They started the ritual. And if Pennywise wins the ritual, he gets to kill him, and that's it. That's the end of everything. So he gets to go back to do what he was doing, go back to sleep for 27 years, and nothing's happened. And they they confront their fears, and Ben and Beverly had to confront the fears that they isolated themselves away from everything so much that they're always they feel that they're always going to be alone until Ben reveals that he finally loves her, which makes her realize he's the one that wrote that poem. And that's what gets them to finally be able to finally be able to start their relationship. Then we catch up with Richie and Eddie, and they're going through the same thing that they did when they were kids, with the door says not so scary, or very scary. And he's like, no, he's screwing with us. So they go through the one that says it very scary, and it's actually the one that's very, very scary. And then they go to the one, okay, not scary at all, and they see a Pomeranian sitting there. And when they're sitting there, Google-eyeing it, it morphs itself into a gigantic freaking morphed out zombie version of a Pomeranian. They're like, oh my God. They close the door, and they say, you know what, next time I'm not dealing with this. He goes, I hope there's not a next time. The comedy duo of both Eddie and Richie is great in this movie. Now we have Bill, who's confronting the fact that there was one thing that really that he could not let go. And the thing that he could not let go was the fact that he lied about him being sick that day. And his brother, Georgie, got killed over it. Now, I know a lot of people are going to... That's what I'm saying. There's a couple of hiccups in the movie, so I'll explain them. There's a couple. Actually, this is the third hiccup. Slight hiccup, but I think they explained it very well to the point where you go, okay, that makes sense. Then Bill overcomes his fear and tells him that no, good or bad, you were a good brother to him. This is just something that never happened. And he was able to finally overcome that will and that trial, and they were able to finally get back to where they originally were at. So right when they were about to confront him again, Richie tries to save everybody and calls him an MFer, throws a rock at him, and right when he's about to do it again, that's when he got hit by the deadlights. And he got hit with the deadlights so hard that it literally started to make blood come out of his nose, which actually forced Eddie to take one step to actually save his best friend and throw a poker into the deadlights and injure Pennywise to the point where Pennywise was almost dying. Now, Pennywise is almost dying, and Eddie walks over to Richie, and right when he's about to celebrate, boom, one of Pennywise's arms spikes right into Eddie's body, and he picks him up and throws him to the side. So they grab Eddie, get down into a hole, and that's when they try to save his life. They try to get him out of there. But then when they run, that's when it was told to everybody that's when they reveal that Pennywise has to change his form. They say, okay, but he has to obey the rules of whatever reality he does. So if he changes himself into a little kid, he is a little kid. If he changes himself into a gigantic, let's say a gigantic slug, he's a gigantic slug. So in this type of cavern, which are a lot of holes and crevices, he has to shrink his body down. He has to. It's the only way. So that's when they say, okay, well, we could pin him and kill him that way. So right when they're about to try to run out of the hole, that's when Pennywise shows up and says, nope, I'm too smart for this. You guys are all going to die. And, I missed you. I craved you. The fear that you generate is far more tasty and succulent than I've ever had. And that's the reason why it has to end. So then we get Pennywise. He basically goes after them. And that's when they realize that, hey, wait a minute. He still has to obey the rules of what the heck he transforms into. So we have to just... You can't beat our imagination. You are whatever our imagination is. So they use their imagination as adults to basically force his body into basically convulsing itself into various forms. And they keep saying that you're a clown, you're this or that, and he has to morph himself into it because he has to obey whatever the rules that basically that give him in that reality. So if they say that nope, you are a fire hydrant, he has turned himself into a fire hydrant. So that's the way it is. Um, then you come to find out that his real form is a blood thing, like almost like a blood slug, and he uses that to actually walk up to him as he able to walk up to him, and they pull out his heart and they squash it and kill him. That's not bad. I actually liked it. As everything starts to collapse in on itself, they kind of find out that Eddie is dead, but they can't carry him. It's going to be too much to carry him, and they all try to get out of the house. And you have Richie flipping out, getting upset, and everything at the fact that his best friend is dead. So we catch up everybody about this whole situation, and you come to find out that two things happened in the movie. One, they were wondering why whenever they ran away, why did they keep forgetting? And two, why it took so long for them to when they got into town that everything started to come back all at once. And if they do leave, will they forget again? Well, the movie explained that the reason why they kept remembering is the fact that he says that Mike explained that either it's the memories that we want to keep or it has to be something by Pennywise. I think it's more Pennywise than anything else. I think that Pennywise was making them forget so nobody can investigate what's going on in his town. It's a very smart tactic. I mean, if you're having a serial killer in town, get rid of everything that says, hey, there's a serial killer in town. I mean, that's the best way to keep the populace from looking into what the heck is going on in town. So there's also, oh, sorry about that. So we get a little bit more information about you get a little bit more information, and that details a little bit more towards Mike and everything, that because everybody is finally leaving, that it's time for him to leave, that he's always stayed in his town and he can never move forward. So while everyone's gone, you kind of find out that Beverly and Ben finally got together. They're married, and they're starting their lives together. Bill is actually getting better at writing, and he's making stronger endings. We don't know very much about Richie. I think that Richie's finally coming to terms that he actually genuinely loved Eddie. He loved Eddie, and maybe he can move forward now. Now we know that Mike is going to move out of town. He's going to start his life and move out of that town. He also stated that, did you get your letter? He's talking to Bill about this, and Bill says, no, I never got. Oh, I finally got mail. He goes, okay, well, read it and give me a call. He's like, okay. He goes, and Bill, I love you, man. He goes, I love you too. So they're going to try to keep more in touch, and then you kind of find out that Ben was telling Beverly, hey, are you okay? She goes, he goes, like basically she kind of give out the hint that she's finally gotten the best sleep she's ever had. And then you come to get that Stanley. The reason why Stanley in the movie killed himself is one reason. He killed himself mainly because he didn't want to be a hindrance to his friends. He felt that if he did show up, he would not be able to give them. He would actually divide them. And the best way to defeat Pennywise was to take himself off the board and to give them the unity that they need. That they were actually stronger together than they were apart. And Stanley knew that if he showed up, he would actually, because he's so petrified with fear, he can never get rid of it. He cannot get rid of the type of person he is. He's a warrior, and he's always been afraid of everything. And he knows that if he ever did show up, Pennywise would kill all of them. He would, because Pennywise would kill Stanley, which will force everyone to be so discombobulated that they will slowly start to die. But so he took himself off the board, and he hopes that everyone can forgive him for it, and he knows that it was selfish, but it was the right thing to do. And I hope that if you guys are reading this, that his plan worked, that this was part of his whole plan to get rid of Pennywise. He knew that was the only way to do it. So then we get Mike leaving town, and that's the end of the movie. Now, here's the thing, and I know this is running pretty long, but there were two hiccups in this movie. One hiccup. In the first movie, you established that Ben was the one that was the local historian, that he learned everything about that town. Okay, I thought it was Mike because it was his family that's been there since slave days. They even stated that his family's been there ever since the foundation of Derry, and that means that his family must have been there in slave days. So why is Ben the one that's doing it? So I felt that Mike's family should have been the one that should have been talking a lot about, the history of that town. Two, and then you establish in this movie that that it's Mike who's the historian. That Mike is the one that's doing all this. So I felt that they kind of did a jump the shark a little bit, and I felt that they were like, "Oh, wait a minute, we kind of messed up here." Another one. The one thing I kind of wished was, I wish that they did a little bit more explanation about Pennywise. I think that if they explained, I know they did a lot in this movie to explain Pennywise, but I felt that they should have explained that he is an interdimensional being. He is not an intergalactic being. He's an interdimensional being, and I felt that the Indians should have been the ones. I don't know how to pronounce their tribe. It's in the movie, but I don't know how to pronounce their tribe. They're the ones that should have given a lot of clues to what the heck this thing is and the beginnings of our universe, basically. That they the wider scope. Um, I do also feel that they messed up on the Beverly and Ben storyline. I I kind of wish that they did a little bit. I kind of wish that Ben. No, I kind of wish that Beverly was a little bit more aggressive about things. Like she should have been very like almost the way she was when she was little. Like she was in your face. She didn't care. I kind of wish that they did that with her a little bit more in this movie. I felt that her character was a little off, but I think that she was so genuinely afraid because of she looked into the deadlights and saw what the heck Pennywise was and what the heck is going on. Now, in the book, it was established that Stanley was the one that saw what the heck the Deadlights were. He saw what Pennywise really was as the Deadlights, and saw the true beginnings of the universe because looking into the Deadlights gives you a perspective into the past, the present, and the future. So that's why in the movie it is explained that Beverly is the one that saw all their deaths. She saw everything in the past, the present, and the future. Like she saw all at the very beginning of the movie. It showed she said to all of them that she saw all of them down in the sewers again, older, about their parents' age. And everybody's like, "Wow, did we change?" He goes, "Yeah, a lot of you changed, a lot of you didn't." And that's when Stanley asks, "Say, hey, so what do I look like?" And he goes, "Oh, you look the same." And that's why I feel like that she knew that everyone was gonna die. She knew that everyone was gonna die, and it frightened her down to the core where she didn't want to freaking talk about it. So I felt that it should have been Stanley, and that was the main reason why he pretty much killed himself. Like he saw what the heck the deadlights were and went, no, no, I'm not dealing with that. No, thank you. Um, but the movie, I will go into a little bit more if I remember anything, and I'm also gonna go see this movie again. It is 2 hours and 49 minutes. It's almost 3 hour movie. It is great. It is great. I think that everyone should go watch it. Like I said in my non-spoiler review, there are some hiccups, but it's not bad if you don't really look at it. But for me as a story person, I like story and certain characters. I think that the whole situation with Ben and Mike was completely flipped. I think they should have made Mike the historian and Ben more of a little bit more of the outsider because his family was not born and raised there. He basically is coming from a military family that are born again Christians. So there's a lot of things that they could have done a little bit differently. But I'm not faulting that with Andy. I'm not faulting it on a lot of people. I think they had a really good story, and then they realized in the middle of it, oh wow, we screwed up. Okay, well we got to keep going. So but it's not that big of a deal. It's just a little bit, like I said, it's a hiccup. So I hope you guys enjoyed. That's my spoiler review. There are some things I left out, but that's only because I know that so a lot of people should see this movie. Like I said, it's Wednesday, and I watched this already on Saturday, and I'm gonna watch it again tomorrow. On Sunday, and hopefully by this time a lot of people have seen it. I'm not going to care about what the box office says. F the box office sales. I enjoy the movie. This movie is part of my collection. I have the first movie. I love it. I think Bill Skarsgård is going to have a great future, and I think that Andy is going to do a phenomenal job with the Flash. So the Flash is in good hands. This movie has proved it. So like, comment, share, subscribe down below. Hit that bell. I will put out a good amount of videos by Monday. Talking about a lot of things, especially what's going on with the Snyder Cut. If I hear any news, or what's going on with the Birds of Prey trailer, I saw it. I have some feelings about it, but let's talk about this movie. It is about Pennywise. It's about Pennywise and the Losers. I hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys have a great one. Bye.